Hold on. What's your favorite Route One Apparel item to wear yourself?
The sequin jacket.
Sneakers or heels?
Heels. I'm 5'2" and a half.
Your go-to karaoke song?
You Belong With Me by Taylor Swift. Oh my gosh.
Who is your favorite music artist right now?
Morgan Wallen.
Last question. What's next for Route One Apparel?
There might be a licensing deal.
Wow. And welcome to Advice with Rice from Rice, Murtha, Psoras. This month, we've got Ali and Randolph, who is the owner and founder of Route One Apparel, which is a Maryland-based apparel company that she started while she was in college in 2010.
You got it right.
At the University of Maryland. And it's Maryland themed, so we thought it just appropriate to ask Ali questions and her advice on her business and life, and we've got some really interesting questions. I think maybe throw her off a little bit here today, so we're gonna have fun. So, all right. So tell me about. I'm assuming, or maybe I'm envisioning that you're in your dorm room in 2010 at the University of Maryland, and you have this idea.
Yeah. Well, you're kind of getting it started. So yeah, I was 2010, a junior, and I'm first generation college student, paying my way through school, financial aid, all that stuff. And I was working at this bar called the Thirsty Turtle, which was obviously a really great place to work, but it was also one of the few non-minimum wage jobs for kids. So I was working there, and unfortunately, it was forced to shut down due to too many underage citations. So despite the fact that that obviously needed to happen, I was devastated because I was out of work. I didn't know what to do. And I remember one of my last shifts, I was actually in the kitchen, and I started getting emotional. And one of the kitchen staff people, who was probably much worse off than me, older, had a family to feed, all of those things, he asked if I needed money. And that was the turning point for me. I was all upset, and there was so much opportunity in front of me. I was going to a great school. I was going to the business school.
Right.
And I took some time to just like relax and breathe, and I was just listening to my intuition. And of course, everyone was on social media back then, as they are now. And I was seeing all these people like sharing their memories of the bar. And I've always had a knack for design, and I saw this girl who was doing this tailgate themed jersey for the bar, and that obviously was null because the bar didn't exist. But I reached out to her. I said, I feel like this should be repurposed as a, honorary t-shirt.
Right.
I have connections, I work there. So together we collaborated on this first design, and the bar was called Thirsty Turtle. So the design said Turtle Survivor, and on the back it had a tipsy turtle, and it said barely remembered, never forgotten. And it's a simple jersey design. I posted it on my social media thinking I'd sell 30. I ended up getting 600 orders in just a few weeks. And
wow.
I ended up launching my website because I was running around campus collecting cash. And I didn't know how to make a website.
Yeah.
But I ended up making a website because someone was like, you go to GoDaddy, you make a PayPal account, and the rest is history. I launched a website and had $12,000 in sales my first day.
On this one t-shirt?
On one lacrosse jersey.
Now, was this sort of like the Facebook moment where it caught on? You said, okay, I had this really great crowd of people that are college students. Who was buying it first off?
I kind of put the cart before the horse with that.
Okay.
But yes, it was mostly college students, but this bar was notoriously known. Like, there's a lot of different colleges that are around that area in College Park. So I started getting orders from a lot of people, a lot of messages. I created a Facebook event initially that had several thousand people that had hit attending on it. And not to get too nerdy, but back then you could mass message everyone from an event.
Right.
So that was my first form of email marketing. And so yeah, I had this event. I was arranging to collect cash from people. It was November of 2010, so it was freezing cold, and I just was like, there has to be an easier way to do this.
Right.
And being in the business school, having some acquaintances, e-commerce was kind of new back then.
Right.
But I just started asking questions, and then frankly, I went to Google, and I ended up making the website. I opened up my first bank account on Route One. I came up with the name Route One on Route One, opening up my first bank account.
Okay.
Kind of cliche, but launched the link and then went to bed, and I woke up, and that's the most money I'd ever seen in my life.
That's
the first
crazy.
day when I officially launched my website.
Yeah. So you're a junior at college. You have all of a sudden have a website. You've got a bunch of money in the bank. You've got this incredible t-shirt design. Is this a one and done? Or do you think to yourself, what do I do next?
So it certainly started with that light bulb moment and acting fast with a unique opportunity that arose, which I was very lucky to see. But I realized very early on, honestly, with just the amount of interest in that first design, that I had tapped into a niche, which at that point was like what I would consider off-brand collegiate themed clothing.
Yeah.
I went to University of Maryland, obviously, and when I wanted to go to a tailgate or something like that, I just had the school store. And still, you know, some of these universities, they just put their logos on everything, and it's very boring.
Yeah.
And
Was anybody else out there doing this at the University of Maryland, creating designs that were unique?
I think that I was seeing it pop up with websites like universities and places like that, primarily with the fraternity and sorority market. So actually, when I first did that design, I contacted one of those websites to help me print it. And I don't like to think about this, but now I do contract printing, and the amount of money I would have saved just doing it on my own. But you know, it's all just a learning curve. Everything about my journey has been trial and error.
Right.
And I never really had a true mentor, other than, like I said, Google.
Yeah.
Which seems silly, but you can really learn so much on the internet.
Have you obviously in business and in life, we start relying on other people. We lean on other people. You just said I didn't really have a mentor. Have you found somebody in your life since that first T-shirt that's become sort of a business mentor?
Over the years, I've definitely had partnership with various people that have helped me move into new levels. I had someone in my life that in the early years, I was handwriting all of my labels for all my packages. And I would sit there in line with my dad, and we would individually scan with the delivery tracking confirmations into the post office system, 2 to 3 hours of my day just doing that, and then manually typing in the tracking numbers. And the ladies at the front desk would always say, "There's an easier way to do this." And I'm like, "How?" And they wouldn't know.
Yeah.
But stamps.com was new too. And all it took was one person to download stamps.com and say, "Here's a zebra printer, and this is how you print a label." And my eyes were open to efficiencies, solving inefficiencies, and being addicted to process.
Yeah. I assume you're a junior, you graduate the following year as a senior. Did you think when you reached graduation that, okay, Route One will be my business and my job after college?
It's funny you bring that up, because I had this like blind confidence of all the levels that I could achieve with that business at that point, my senior year. And I had a street team working for me.
What's a street team?
I called it a street team because it's a glorified way of saying unpaid interns.
Okay, all right.
But I was so passionate about what I was doing, and I realized that business development is cross-functional. Like, you don't have to be a business major to be interested in business. So I had a bunch of people with that momentum of that first design working for me with, setting up sales events. It was really easy to recruit college kids to say there's free alcohol at a bar if you work for my, booth. So senior year, I got tasked to apply to this thing called Cupid's Cup, which is hosted by Kevin Plank. And it's called Cupid's Cup because his first business actually was selling Valentine's Day roses in College Park. And he made all his money doing that.
Okay.
And then later on started Under Armour. So I thought it was a cool concept. I applied, and I placed top 5 out of 200 businesses. And in that audience, my senior year, where it was a very, crossroads moment, it's May, I'm about to graduate, kind of the first time my parents really knew what I was doing too. Everyone thought, all right, this girl has this la dream, and she just needs to kind of, move on and get a real job.
Right.
And I lost in front of 600 people. And one of the judges, I won't say who, but it's on a video, said, "I really don't see this being successful, but when it doesn't work out, I'd love for you to work for me." And back then, I had this motivation to prove people wrong. It was a fire in me because I really believed in all of the potential of the business. So I sat my parents down. They did the whole, now it's time to get a real job.
Right.
And I said, just give me the summer. Can you just give me the summer?
Yeah.
Because I would have won $15,000 in seed funding. And that meant everything to me. The company that won that year, when interviewed, they said, when they won the $15,000, they said, "What would you do? What are you going to do with this money?" And they said, it's going to be, we're going to apply it to 1 week's worth of payroll. And I said, I could do so much with that, so I just wanted to prove people wrong. So that summer I learned how to make my first custom product, and it was a Maryland flag bikini.
Okay.
And I launched it for pre-sale. I was really good with the Photoshop job. I put it on a girl, and the picture went viral, and I ended up pre-selling all 1,000 bathing suits before they came in stock.
Wow.
And I ended up getting way more than that $15,000 in seed funding from a company.
So real quick, how did you get, was the thought that, okay, let's focus on Maryland? Route One obviously is about Maryland. How did you say, I'm gonna really get niche with my designs and my concepts just to focus on Maryland?
The growth with that happened by listening to my customers. For the first couple of years, I really focused on what I was comfortable with, which was university-themed clothing. And my first licensing deal was with University of Maryland. I was actually doing some, I'll just say, off-brand university-themed designs. And the licensing guy at the time, Joe Ebaugh, was really great. He reached out to me and he believed in partnership. He didn't send me a nasty cease and desist letter. I didn't know that I was doing anything wrong, because like I said, I just kind of threw it in the fire and saw what happened. And he got me a licensing deal. And so I started realizing how lucrative that was, licensing. And then I've always had this comfort with home. I've been here my entire life. My family's from Maryland. So as I grew up, as I graduated from school, I proceeded to just kind of expand my horizons with designs, but still under the same umbrella of the comfortability that I had. Maryland culture is so unique. So coinciding with just making off-brand, not off-brand anymore, but Maryland-themed clothing, I pursued other licensing deals within Maryland. And I just had the confidence to show that I could do something unique and different.
Right. So earlier you said luck. Would you attribute success, and you certainly are wildly successful, would it be a little bit of luck, a little bit of hard work? Is a little bit of, what's the proportion there, do you think?
Well, I will say, I don't like to correct people when they say you got lucky, because there is luck in everything.
You may believe you make your own luck.
Yeah, I think that you have to seize opportunity. I think that you have to quiet your brain and you have to focus on what your goals are, what your visions are, what you feel is something that drives you. And I think everyone uses the word universe these days, but I think the universe gives you signs, but you have to pay attention. And so I think it's a mix. I definitely think it's a concoction of hard work, definitely hard work. I mean, I sacrificed 1,000 other things to grow this business, but I was mentally ready for that. I knew what I was going to lose in order to grow my company. So I would say for me, it was about 70, 80% hard work. That light bulb seize the opportunity moment, which I think was the luck. And I just think just being around the right people at the right time and just listening. I always have been a really good listener to feedback, whether it's positive or negative, because I'm not my customer. I need to have customers that support me. So it's really about them.
You mentioned a fork in the road, and obviously had you won this $15,000, that would have been sort of a fork in the road. One of the things we talk about a lot in our lives is forks in the roads. Had something else happened, you would have loved to know. Obviously, we can't see what would have come of it. But are there any forks in the road in your life where you think, God, I'd love to go back and see what would have happened had I made a different decision or had something just naturally happen differently, either work or life or anything?
Well, it's, at least from my experience and my journey, a lot of the things that I viewed in the moment as a failure actually ended up becoming my best success. So I don't really want to go back in life, because I reflect on those pivots, and I've had a lot of those where I've been thrown a curveball, and in the moment I am panicking, I have anxiety, I'm freaking out. But I think that's just what life throws you to challenge you, and then when you step out of that and you're past that story and that problem, you just kind of think about it with nostalgia and like gratefulness. And I can count, now that I've been in business for close to 15 years now. I've had a lot of moments over the years where I have been, taken advantage of. I trusted the wrong person, a lot of different stories like that. But it really does come full circle. So when those moments happen to me now, I try to humble myself and just stay quiet in a zone. Don't act with impulse. Don't do any of those things. Just stay true to who you are. Because at the end of the day, reputation is everything. And karma is real. So, yeah.
It sounds like, and this is an appropriate follow-up question to this, is what would you look back and tell your 24-year-old self? And it sounds like mistakes have been made. We all make mistakes in business, right? And in life, we all make mistakes, and we would certainly look back and say, gosh, I wish I could change that decision. But looking at your 24-year-old self, what are a couple things you would tell her?
A few things I would say is, like, always kind of know who you are. I would say that when you become a business, for me, I sacrificed a lot of who I was for my business. I gave up, going to the gym and working out and maintaining friendships. And I, post-pandemic, focused a lot more on just having a whole life. So I think not losing that would have been helpful. This is cheesy, but I think every business owner needs a really good accountant. And that's the other thing, is I really was so almost weirdly confident in my own capabilities, but it became a very top-heavy business. Having executive management, a managerial team, trusting the right advisors would have been a game changer. And I always would get asked, you've never had an investor, you've never had someone invest in your business, and the answer is no. But I kind of was like, I don't want an investor, and now I'm like, I could be doing so much with the right, team and advisors and stuff. So that's what I've been working on.
But you lose control.
Yeah.
I mean, and I would bet that you probably enjoy getting to, not control, but getting to make the decisions, because this is your baby, right?
It is.
And how would you advise somebody that's, say, in the position where you are, where you're thinking, wow, I could take on, private equity or an angel investor, or do I keep it all me? Where do you fall in that, and what advice would you give somebody?
I think you just have to really listen to your gut and what you want your story to be in that moment. Because I hear a lot too that there's a lot of people that their first business is their baby, and then they sell it and they get through that feeling, and then they start business number 2 and business number 3 and business number 4, and it's just fun, So for me, it was, yes, I really wanted to prove myself and prove my worth in the process of growing my business. In a way, Route One is an enigma of me, because a lot of it was my effort over the years to grow it. But especially post-pandemic, where we had a lot of our growth, and I had a visual checkbox in my head of all the things that I wanted to accomplish. And I was like, okay, I did that. And now the fun is in partnership. So I think that's just the analysis of where you are in that viewpoint of control, being able to let go when that time is, so that's part of your story in a way that you have humility in and appreciation for, versus something that you regret.
Right. Now, our crack team of researchers did a lot of investigating about you. We put our best group on it, and we found out and we heard that it sounds like this worked out, but COVID was looking like it might be the end of Route One.
Yeah.
Can you tell me about that?
Yeah. So March of 2020, I'm all about like the plot line, do it for the plot kind of thing. So March of 2020, let's rewind. I am about to celebrate my 30th birthday, March 20th.
Okay.
I found out later that it was going to be a big surprise birthday with a lot of different people. But even before March of 2020, when pandemic changed everything, my family farm burned down in January. And this place signified my whole childhood. It was where all the family holidays were spent and everything like that. And it was burned down in an unexpected fire. And I felt like a big part of my identity was lost then. So I was going through it a little bit mentally with that. And then, of course, I'm trying to have the confidence, and then my business gets rocked in March of 2020. And a lot of people's businesses got rocked. I mean, the whole world got affected in something. So I am uncertain about what the direction is. Of course, leadership is uncertain too. We had no idea what was gonna happen with that pandemic.
Right.
But for the first time, people were looking to me for answers that I had no knowledge or experience in. Safety, security, cleanliness, like all these different things. And people were very fearful. And so March is usually a very high growth time for us, because we do this thing called Maryland Day, and we've made it Maryland Month.
Yeah.
Maryland Day, it happens on March 25th. So I was gearing up for a successful sale, and then our business dropped. Everything dropped.
Yeah.
But going back to something that I'd always pay attention to is I just pay attention to my customers and what they were doing. And we had a pretty big inventory list of items. I started seeing changes in buying behavior. I was seeing people buying 600 bandanas and microfiber cloths.
Right.
And then I started seeing people tagging us in products that they were making with those items, which was face masks. And I also had a lot of people, influential people, news people that I was on the news with a lot, encouraging me to make face masks. And I said, I don't want to be that person that sells water in a fire. Like, I just don't feel comfortable with that. And one of my mentors at the time encouraged me to just do it with obviously a charitable aspect to it. So we decided to make them very affordable and do buy one, give one masks. And so I had the opportunity to share that message on the news, and everyone was watching the news back then. And, you know, I was sending people home early because we weren't having enough work. And I believe it was over the weekend, it was a Saturday or Sunday, I was on this news segment. And I'm sitting there after this news segment, and my website crashed for the first time in history. We had about, like, I think it was a couple hundred orders or something like that first day. And I call my employees and I'm like, can you guys help? We're getting an influx of customer service emails and things like that. So I then found out that the press secretary for Governor Hogan had placed an order on our website. And so I kind of put two and two together, and I was like, maybe he's gonna be wearing it on a news segment.
Right.
So we'd watch his segments every single day. This is a few weeks later, and he's on the news. I believe it was a national news segment. And he was talking about all the things that his community and his state were doing to support each other. And he mentioned my website on this national news press conference.
Wow.
And we were actually in the office when this was happening. And I remember it was kind of like one of those war room vibes. We were all looking at each other, jaws dropped. And second time, but this time more legit, our website crashed. And for this time, it was almost for an entire day. We had hundreds of thousands of people looking at our website, purchasing from us. And we went from 15,000 orders the year before to over 150,000 orders that year.
Wow. In
less than a year. And I felt really uncomfortable with that, but I was also humbled and appreciative. And that year was a lot about giving back. I gave back, obviously, with our donations. Every time there was a community initiative that asked for donations, I finally could say yes to every single one of them.
Right.
And, you know, it really solidified that we were a community brand.
Was this your karma?
I would say, you know, karma can work out both ways, but I have always tried to be as best I can for this community, and they really came through for me when I felt like it was going to be the end.
Yeah.
I mean, we were 1 or 2 weeks shy of just, like, I honestly didn't have the work for anyone.
Yeah.
And you know how it is with small business.
Sure.
It's not like you have all this money sitting in your bank account.
Sure.
You're just kind of sometimes just being able to make payroll.
Yeah. Well, I guess, and we can cut, because the karma question I was really angling towards was it karma that the governor decided to wear your product? And good karma, because you had done all the right things leading up to this and all the hard work, and they just happened to, it wasn't forced, they just happened to pick up the product and put it on, and all of a sudden everybody sees it and he's talking about it. And
it was, in a way. I mean, I have always believed that, you know, I try to make product that everyone can like and enjoy. And then when I see it on these famous people, like I call them local celebrities, but you know, we've been seen on Coach Harbaugh, and same thing, like I didn't mail him a free product. I don't really believe in giving people free Maryland flag gear. It's like, if you like the state, wear it, you know?
Sure.
But yeah, with Harbaugh even, he was asked in a press conference, you know, you're not wearing the NFL certified masks. What are you wearing? And he's like, this is a local brand, Route One Apparel. You know, and I like how comfortable they are. They're more comfortable than the certified ones.
That's great.
And I'm like, this is cool, you know? So that's the motivation I really like to see. It just is rewarding. It's really lonely sometimes when you're a business owner. And so hearing that feedback from someone that I admire and respect, and seeing that consistently come across is really my motivation. Yeah.
So let me shift gears for a little bit here, and going from the business of Route One to kind of more personal life, you've had a lot of board appointments. Tell me a little bit about the boards that you're on, and then I want to talk about, you know, what advice you have to either do you get on, do you do this? So tell me a little bit about the boards that you're on.
My first board I was appointed on was Maryland State Tourism Board, which is a state-appointed board.
And appropriate for Route One because
I love it.
You're singing the
It was great. I felt like I had the behind the scenes of what was going on in the state, and then obviously I could market it much better.
How did that come about? Do you remember?
Well, actually, the governor appointed me.
Really?
Yeah.
Was this post-COVID?
Pre-COVID.
Okay.
Yeah. And I never had met him before.
Okay.
And he had appointed me, and I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
So I was on that board.
And this was Governor Hogan?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. So in fact, the first time I met him was at Annapolis, like after I was appointed. And I said, thanks so much for appointing me. I'd love to do something with you for Maryland Day. And he said, reach out to my secretary and we'll schedule something. I was like, oh, typical political response.
Right.
But I reached out to his secretary and she said, we cleared his entire calendar. Let me know what you had in mind. And I had no idea what I was going to do. But it ended up being, we sailed on the Pride of Baltimore from Fort McHenry to Fells Point and had a big bar crawl and all these things. And that was the first time I saw the news pick up Maryland Day. And now it's a huge holiday that all these different businesses celebrate. So it was pretty cool to do that.
What do you think your greatest accomplishment was on that board?
I think pioneering Maryland Day as a holiday, to be honest, now that I'm thinking about it, because if I wasn't on that tourism board, if I didn't have those connections, and I wanted to advertise this day, as I call it our version of Amazon Prime Day, but it's a big celebration of all things Maryland. And now I'm seeing all sorts of businesses do things with it. THB Bagels makes Maryland-themed bagels. Every street, every retail shop on Main Street does something Maryland-themed. We work with a lot of those, obviously. So it's just really cool to see a boost in the economy there, and everyone proud to be where they're from.
Are you still on that board?
Not anymore. I had 2 served terms.
Okay.
So I had to cycle off, but I'm on a few others, yeah.
And there was one you mentioned in Baltimore County. What's the name of that?
Economic Development Advisory Board, and I was appointed to that by Johnny Olszewski. So, you know, it's I think it's cool with at least my experience with the state and politicians. It doesn't matter if you're a Republican or Democrat. You like Maryland flag stuff. So I get to know people from both sides of the aisle.
Yep.
And I just get to know them as people. So it's really fun.
You mentioned earlier in the interview about giving back. And I know from reading a lot of the stuff that's out there for Route One and for you personally, you're real big on giving back. Tell me about, you know, where does that come from? How do you see it helping? Where do you see yourself going with it?
Well, I come from a family of movers.
Okay.
So my family started a moving company in the mid-1800s in Baltimore. And so we're always helping people. You know, my family is all about entrepreneurship and integrity and all those things. So I remember my conversations at the dinner table with my grandparents and my extended family were always about business and about supporting people and all that stuff. So it's just kind of innate. And then frankly, my motivation for starting my business has always just been financial stability, nothing too grandiose. The world's big and you can have all kinds of fun experiences. You don't need private jets or yachts, you know? So
it would be nice though, right?
It would be nice. But I don't need to buy one of those things. So I've always been like content with just feeling stable, financially stable. So, you know, when times are really good, I want to help other people if I can, you know? So that's just been a motivator for me. And so the times, especially during the pandemic when we had our insane growth, I told my employees, I was like, I can't guarantee this forever, but I'm going to give you guys some big bonuses.
Yeah.
So that's what I did. And we donated to a lot of different charities. And I didn't really like want to do it just to say I did it.
Yeah.
But like just little humbling things because you're so wrapped up in the day to day. I remember Amy Caprio, who passed away tragically, they were raising money for a playground. And they sent me a letter and I said, how much is left for you to build this playground?
Yeah.
And we were able to donate the entire amount to
That's awesome.
fund the playground at the tail end. And I just did it just to do it because we were there and we had the opportunity to do that. But just to see like all the people stop through our office and thank us and all these different things, I was like, this does really make an impact.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I'm going to get off business and shift gears a little bit again on you. I understand you love Halloween.
You really did your research, didn't you? Oh my gosh. It's my favorite holiday.
Okay, so tell me about your love for Halloween.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I obviously started a clothing company, but I don't really view myself as fashionable, you know? But I do like dressing up. I do like curating these like game day gear outfits and all that stuff. And then it's manifested into wearing wigs on game day, wings and all that stuff. And so during that time too, as I'm curating these funky outfits that all kinds of people can wear, I'm like, I really like dressing up. I really like costumes. So I'll admit I have a costume closet, but Halloween to me is the entire month of October. And I think as I get older, it's probably going to extend to the quarter, but.
Did you want to wear a costume here today at this interview?
It was tempting. I did tell you, I was running late because of the electric issue, but I would have probably dressed up in something a little more crazy. Or, I would have probably done that.
All right.
Well, next time you have me on.
So, all right. So we're a little bit off the business path.
That's fine.
Relationships.
Oh boy.
How do you? I'm not asking about any specific, but I want to get advice. I want you, because this is advice with Rice. Give us your advice about relationships. What advice do you have?
You don't know yourself at 21 to be in a serious relationship.
Okay. Did you have something at 21 that was a serious relationship that you look back? Maybe I should have asked, what would you tell your 21-year-old self, not your 24-year-old self?
Well, I mean, I like to think of everything in a kind way, but I will say that I have learned so much about myself over that period of time, and I think it's really important to find someone that aligns with your values. And there's still a lot of learning to be had personally when you're young. And, I'm the kind of person when I see my Instagram algorithm is all about, these quotes and self-healing and all of those things. But I also look at the comments, and something that I see as a consistent message with women when it's like, what's something you would tell your younger self is like, don't focus on the boy, focus on yourself, focus on finding you. I don't want to change anything in my life. There's a lot of beauty that's happened in that time, but I am now like focusing on me and finding me, which is something I kind of put to the side for a bit.
All right, so let me re-ask this question then. What would you tell what advice would you give your 21-year-old self?
I would just say, invest in yourself more.
Okay. Tell me more about investing in yourself. How do you do that?
Well, I think it starts with the basics, eating healthy meals, going to the gym, surrounding yourself with good people, having a good hobby, something that you can distract yourself with outside of work. And I've been doing some weird stuff lately, like weird but cool. And it creates cool topics of conversation. Like, have you ever heard of magnet fishing?
I have heard of magnet fishing. I think I've
It's
seen
a
them do
Baltimore
it
thing.
at the Inner Harbor, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the first thing I did when I became single a few years ago is I just saw this magnet fishing group, and I showed up and I just started throwing magnets in the water. And I'm like, this is so weird, but it's so cool.
What's the most interesting thing you've caught magnet fishing?
Well, great of you to ask. So the first time I show up there actually, and he's like, wear overalls, right? So of course I have no dirty overalls. I wear my Nashville jean overalls.
Trendy, right? Probably expensive.
Yeah, they're very cute. And I'm wearing nice boots. And I'm like, I didn't know anything. I didn't know it was gonna get all dirty. I throw my little magnet thing in, I feel something really heavy. And so they need to get the grappling hook.
Yeah.
And I'm pulling this thing up, and it's a giant tire.
Oh no.
And I'm like, cool, this is cool. And the news was there and everything. So they're like, oh, can you hold that up and get a picture? So I lift it up for a picture, and all the gook inside the tire just falls all over my jeans and everything. And it smelled real good, let me tell you. And then we went to the bar afterwards, and I was like, this is fun.
Oh,
but
no.
it was kind of fun. So having little hobbies like that. And another hobby that I've been doing recently is saxophone lessons.
Really?
Yeah.
Which saxophone? Because I actually grew up playing the saxophone. Which saxophone are you playing?
The tenor.
Okay.
Yeah. And I just bought it from Amazon.
Yep.
So I didn't know the difference of the two, But I signed up for lessons, and it's mostly kids taking lessons with this guy.
Are you in a room with a bunch of fourth graders taking a lesson right now?
Thankfully, I'm solo.
Okay.
Yeah. But he was like, what's your goal with this? And I said, I want to learn some Taylor Swift and Morgan Wallen. And he's like, Morgan Wallen is a country band. And I was like, that's fine.
Sure.
So I'm just learning. I just want to cover fun music.
Why? Okay, saxophone seems most people would go with either guitar or piano. Why saxophone?
I like the sound of it. And I just I think it's cross music industry.
Yeah.
I go to a lot of EDM music concerts and stuff like that, and then a saxophone will pop out, and everyone just freaks out at the saxophone.
Yep.
So, and No offense to saxophone players. I mean, it's very talented, but it's notes. Like it's like a giant recorder that we all played when we were in 4th grade.
Yep.
So I just feel like it's an achievable sound. I used to play violin back in the day.
Okay.
So
a little bit of a crossover there. You can, relate that.
Self-taught piano, you know.
Oh, wow.
So,
okay, so you're very musical.
I try to be.
Well, we're going to get to some of your music loves and likes a little later. What's the best part about being your own boss?
The best and worst, because I think it goes hand in hand, is your own schedule.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're routine, it's great. If you're not, you just kind of meander around and you're like, I am so free.
Do you find that tough to do, or do you feel like, okay, I like this because it's allowing me to be creative and sort of run the business the way I want it to be run?
That's always been a journey for me, because I definitely lean more towards the creative side. Mm-hmm. So when I don't have structure, either by someone like helping to keep my structure or me forcing myself to be routine, it can go crazy. But I have in periods of my past, especially when I had a lot more structure, it allows me to be more creative. So I think the things that are happening in our near future are going to be really good for that.
Great. That's great. I love this part. This is just this is fun.
Okay, throw them at me.
Do you feel like you can handle this?
Just don't ask me questions that might get me in trouble, like J.O. Spicer, Old Bay.
Oh, I do.
I have to like both of them.
Oh no, I don't have those questions. Don't worry. I asked them in a very open way that you're either going to soar or sink yourself. No, joking.
This is a lawyer.
We were going to name this cross-examination with Rice, but I just did advice. So all right, okay. Are you ready for the lightning round?
No comment. Is that what I say?
All right, here we go. Would you rather be too hot or too cold?
Hot, duh.
Last time you got asked to take a selfie?
Probably yesterday. What's
the worst fashion trend you ever fallen victim to?
Oh, I mean, you're really putting me on the spot here.
Hey, this is a lightning round.
I would say, honestly, overalls are not my thing.
Overalls at the Inner Harbor too, while you're magnet fishing?
Yeah.
Okay. What is your go-to music in the car?
Morgan Wallen.
Who would play you in a movie?
Myself, I hope.
Karaoke bar or Irish pub?
Can we go back to that question? I actually get told that I look like Lady Gaga, and I don't know if I like that or not.
Okay, so you're picking Lady Gaga.
I really like her.
Okay.
But I mean, I like her talent and everything, but people are always like, you look like Lady Gaga.
Okay, I like that.
So maybe Lady Gaga.
Karaoke bar or Irish pub?
Karaoke bar.
Of course.
Are you kidding? Oh my gosh, if you've seen my Instagram, like I literally do compilations.
We're gonna make sure everybody looks at the Instagram for this. Aside from this interview, if you could delete one embarrassing memory from your mind, what would it be?
My last relationship.
Okay. What quality do you value most in others?
Humility.
What's your go-to excuse when you want to get out of plans?
I'm late. I'm traffic. Sorry.
Wait a second. Weren't you late and in traffic for this interview?
I'm kidding. I've learned actually you just don't need to tell people excuses. You just say, I'm running late.
If you need Ali, just give her a half an hour earlier time than you. Yeah. So
it's called fashionably late.
That's right. That's
right. If I have a podcast, it's going to be called Fashionably Late.
What's one of your pet peeves? And don't say people being late.
I would say a pet peeve is people who are constantly on their phone.
If you could pick a nickname for yourself, what would it be?
Let's see. Shoot. Oh my gosh, these are putting me on the spot. A nickname? I would say, well, my stage name is Beatrice.
There you go.
So.
Are you an introvert or an extrovert?
I'm an introverted extrovert.
I know what that is. So that's it. You can be in front of people, but then you need to shut down after that. Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay. What's your coffee order?
Right now, they have the pecan flavor. Is it pecan or pecan? It's a latte.
Is it Route or Route?
It could technically be both, but I think it's pecan. It's a latte with oat milk. I'm a real big fan of milk that isn't actually milk.
Do you ever have people call it Route One?
They say both.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I don't correct them. Whatever, tomato. So.
Yeah. As long as they're buying something. Favorite childhood movie?
Christmas Story, I'd say.
If you could have any job for just one day, what would it be?
Morgan Wallen's set manager.
Okay. We're still waiting for somebody to say lawyer. Which superpower would you choose?
Mind reading.
What's your favorite Maryland tradition?
Maryland Day.
Steamed crabs or crab cakes?
You see these nails? I would say crab cakes.
What's your favorite hobby?
Honestly, traveling.
It's not saxophone.
Yeah. Well, I'd say saxophone too, but
Okay.
I have taken my saxophone while traveling.
Oh, perfect.
I had sax on the beach.
Okay.
I literally took it to Ocean City.
Do you hold on. What was the first product you ever designed at Route One? You already answered this, but I have to ask you anyway.
The Turtle Survivor jersey.
There you go. What's your favorite social media platform for marketing?
Instagram.
Sneakers or heels?
Heels. I'm 5'2" and a half.
What's your guilty pleasure snack?
I like these. Oh gosh, my guilty pleasure snack. Man, why am I blanking on some of these? Like,
This is an easy one.
Shoot.
And it's Halloween. You're a big fan of Halloween. You know, one of those aren't Halloween candies, not one of your...
I don't like candy.
Oh.
I like healthy stuff. You know what? I make ground turkey all the time. Is that weird?
There you go. What's your favorite holiday?
Halloween.
Words of affirmation, quality time, physical touch, acts of service, or receiving gifts. What is your love language?
Can I say all 5?
Sure. Ocean City or Deep Creek Lake?
I like Ocean City.
Are you enjoying this interview?
I'm having a great time.
Morning workout or evening workout?
Morning.
What's your dream vacation destination?
Depends on the time of year, but I'm drawn to the mountains lately.
Last book you read?
Strength to Strength.
Maryland hard crab or soft crab?
Hard crab, but you want to know why?
Sure.
I used to have to kill the soft shells, and it's really sad.
What?
Because I worked at a seafood restaurant.
Do they scream?
They're very vulnerable, and you use a pair of scissors, and then you like cut their brains out, and then you cut their parts off. And, and then they're squirming like this the whole time.
What's your favorite Route One apparel design?
My favorite depends on the story behind it, and I would say the ones that have the craziest stories. Let's say tennis shoes.
Okay.
That's had the wildest story.
One word to describe your work ethic.
Consistent.
Your go-to karaoke song.
You Belong With Me by Taylor Swift. Oh my gosh.
First thing you do in the morning.
Unfortunately, I check my phone because it's usually waking me up with all the vibrations on it. Ugh.
What's your most memorable moment at Route One?
Buying my commercial building.
Best Maryland festival to attend.
Anything that has Route One behind it.
What is your preferred streaming service right now?
Spotify.
Would you feel more comfortable wearing a cowboy hat or tiara?
Cowboy hat, 100%.
Who's your favorite I think I know the answer to this. Who is your favorite music artist right now?
Morgan Wallen.
What is your most used emoji?
The laughing emoji.
If you could create a new holiday that everyone had to celebrate, what would it be called and how would we celebrate it?
What did someone else say to that?
This might have been the first time I slid this one in.
A holiday that everyone, I really want to think about that one.
All right, we'll come back to it. How about that?
Yeah.
What is your top news source?
I go to Google News for most everything, but I also like to honestly just put on the local news stations when I get home and just see what they're talking about.
That's a very safe answer.
I feel like local news is great because it's relevant. It's more relevant to me.
Yeah. What is your favorite online shopping site?
RouteOneApparel.com.
What's your favorite season in Maryland?
Season?
Yeah.
I would say fall. I'm a fall girl.
What's the one thing you never leave the house without?
My phone.
What's your proudest achievement?
Paying off my student debt within a year of graduation.
How do you unwind after a long day?
I just hang out with my dog, sit down with her. She's 13, so like to spend as much time as I can with her.
Who would you want to have dinner with, dead or alive?
Morgan Wallen.
Describe this. My gosh. It's the Morgan Wallen show. No, I'm joking. Describe your style in 3 words.
Unique, fun, quirky.
What's the last TV show you binge watched?
I don't watch that much TV.
What's one thing you want to learn next?
I want to perfect saxophone.
What's your favorite Maryland sports team?
I really like the Ravens and the Orioles.
Good answer. What would you be doing if you weren't running Route One Apparel right now?
I have a dream to be in the music industry.
Dogs or cats?
Dogs.
What's one thing on your bucket list?
Solo traveling somewhere.
What's your favorite Route One Apparel item to wear yourself?
The sequin jacket.
What's your favorite local restaurant?
I support all local restaurants.
Aside from Rice, Murtha, Psoras, if you could collaborate with any brand, who would it be?
I'd like to work with the local sports teams, NFL and MLB.
Last question. What's next for Route One Apparel?
There might be a licensing deal.
Wow. All right. So where can people find you? Online, give us all the places. Where do you want people to be able to go say, hey, I need to find out more about Ali?
So we have a website. It's www.RouteOneApparel.com. We are on all the social channels, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. I think we have Snapchat. We also sell to over 150 retail stores, mostly in the state. So you can go to our website and see the whole list there. And we're on Amazon.
That's
so
great.
Pretty much everywhere.
You're everywhere.
Yeah.
Ali,
thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on.
Guys, make sure you go check out the full video on our YouTube channel, and make sure you go to Route One Apparel and check out some of their cool stuff, because, if you want to look like you live in Maryland or want to look like a Marylander, you got to wear Route One.
Amen to that.